Yep, it's Anthony Vera here at the Bestie Brunch podcast at Fushimi, Times Square with Rambo Hustle, Pegao, Pegao.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about Pegao, Pegao. What exactly is that project?
Pegao is essentially a brand that I hope that brings together not just DJs, but the artists and the fans, to not just, expose, but educate people on the culture of the reggaeton, new music, new artists. I think a lot of times we kind of get stuck into like the playing this song because this is what everybody knows. In the club, you kind of hear the same songs. You kind of hear the same things on the playlist. And some of the, at what point do we extend the lifeline of new music and new artists, and we actually give a platform for longevity to our new artists and our new music and the new talent that we see come into the game. So,
did you see that post about that girl just yesterday? She said, I don't want to hear music from from 5 years ago.
Yes,
Play only music in the clubs from the last 5 years and better. What do you think about that?
I think that's limited. You know what I mean? But I do feel like a lot of times, and I mean, I'm not a DJ, but I deal with a lot of DJs, and you DJ. So, I mean, do you struggle with the concept of like, I want to play this record, I love this record, but like, I don't want to lose the crowd, I don't want to lose the floor.
So I'm absolutely notorious for this. Like, I play new music and I mix it with old music. I kind of sandwich it in between. But it's scary. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. You got 1,000 people in front of you and they are screaming every song. They're screaming the words from every song. I played White Iverson, Post Malone.
Crickets?
That was the sound. That was what, like that right there was the reaction to White Iverson.
Damn.
My best friend reached over to me and said, take that shit off. And that was so deflating because I knew this was a fucking hit.
Man.
I knew it was a hit.
Big record.
And it was his biggest record probably. How do we, as somebody that is highlighting new music, how do you think DJs could program new music into their sets?
I think a lot of it is actually training your audience to expect new music and maybe even like communicating what you want to hear. Like for me, it's like I'll ask people like, and at the end of the day, I'm gonna put whatever I want on the playlist. But I like to ask because it creates the engagement, and like somebody might go, oh, I don't know if I want this on the playlist. Let me go check it out. Like the new record from Ozuna, Sirenita. I think it's fire. But a lot of people are like, oh, it sounds like the same old thing from Ozuna. Like I saw that girl's post, so like I do get it. But like, at the end of the day, like if you hear a lot of the records, especially like hip hop, right? A lot of new records you hear on that people play are actually just mashups of like 90s hip hop records. You know what I mean? So it was funny, like a few years back, we were just like, oh, that like you guys think, oh, the older music is the best. I'm like, well, y'all are sampling it now. You're using the same samples for new records. So it's like there is some quality to that space. And maybe it's like nostalgia, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like there is value to that. So I don't think it's like only this or only that, but I think that's why like knowing your history and going back and really appreciating all of the music is super important.
I feel like I have to sprinkle things in. Like this brand new song from John Summit, this brand new song from Ozuna, this brand new song from even Bad Bunny. Like, so, like it took
the new album
for the new album. When you played the new album, first of all, it came out in the winter. It came out in the dead of winter. And in New York, in the dead of winter, in January, the clubs aren't like crazy. So, it was cool when I was playing them, but it took 2-3 weeks for people to start learning the words, start understanding the references and stuff like that. And then it took about 2 I would say 2 weeks for people to start really taking to it. And like, I need to hear that new Bad Bunny.
So I was in Puerto Rico for San Sebastian. Like a week.
I guess that's why he dropped the album, right?
a week after it came out.
Okay.
So my experience with it was completely different because to me, he dropped it during that time for that reason. Like, I'm gonna make sure my island and my people have something crazy. He didn't perform at that festival. If you guys don't know, San Sebastian is like the biggest street festival in Puerto Rico at the beginning of the year that celebrates culture of salsa bachata. It's not a reggaeton, like that's not what's played there. So to actually go there and like all these other Carlos Vives,
to hear Bomba over there, like,
but in the streets, Bad Bunny everywhere. And I think what it did was it created a merge of the older generation, and then now all these young kids are going to San Sebastian because they think Bad Bunny might show up.
Right. And this was the first time I feel like it was his celebration of his culture.
For sure.
Like he's been about Puerto Rico, but I feel like this was him waving the light blue flag.
For sure.
You know what
100%. I mean? Yeah. And a lot of people from Europe and other places were like, oh, this isn't what we want. We want perreo, we want reggaeton. And it's like, yo, y'all got like 5 albums of what you wanted. Like, at some point, you have to respect the artist enough to not want what you want, and like respect that like they're gonna. And I think that's where some artists just are able to break through. I did a video comparing like Bad Bunny and Kendrick, where I was like, these are artists that could milk their audience and say, I'm gonna keep giving you what you want, but no, I'm gonna say something that matters to me because I've reached a platform where I don't have to give you what you want. You're gonna consume what I want to give you, and if you don't like it, I'm still en la cima.
So Lo Que Pasó in Hawaii, I heard that song for the first time. I remember I was laying down by the beach in Coney Island, and I'm listening to it, and one solitary tear comes from my right eye.
This man was crying at the
beach.
I
was crying. I wouldn't say I was crying. I teared, all right? I wasn't crying. Yeah. I teared. Because I heard about what they're doing to the culture of Puerto Rico. I heard about what the lens, like what Bad Bunny saw. As somebody that grew up in Puerto Rico, what did you see growing up? What I'm asking is, what did you see from the mainland of the United States coming into Puerto Rico and taking from Puerto Rico?
I think like it's like anything else, you know what I mean? Like the more popular like certain things get, the more exposure you get to it. And us as being natives of the island, we have to choose, are we gonna celebrate our popularity and the fact that our culture has expanded so where people from all over the world want to come to this little island to experience it? Or are we gonna be like, I think the issue is the what's happening with real estate, where like realtors are like ignoring local like Boricua phone calls and communication to buy properties because they know they can get a higher dollar amount from American citizens because of Law 22 and the things that are. I think that's where the biggest issue is, and then the attempt to privatize the beaches to make it only accessible to the owners of said land. I think that's where you have that. And I think the short movie for Debí Tirar Más Fotos
was crazy.
It was beautiful. I was, no bullshit, I was with my girl laying in bed watching that like 10:30 in the morning, and I almost cried. I didn't tell her that, but I almost cried.
I didn't cry, but I almost cried.
Well, I mean, it was powerful because, it's the way he tells the story is like he's not giving it to you like in verbatim, but through the old man's like story, you're like, damn, like I get it. Like
what's Papa Cheese?
Like even when he's walking down the street and he sees the family listening to country music and he hears the rock music and we know like there's a lot of Americanized concepts in Puerto Rico. You have to go really far into the island to feel the island now. And I think you do see the effects of that, but I do feel like Puerto Rican culture is so strong that like we'll be able to make that work. But I would say that album is probably, it made me feel the most at home. It brought me to like my youth, man. Like I was like, every time I listen to the album, I'm like, man, I'm like in my grandma's front porch.
That was by far my favorite Bad Bunny album that he's made so far.
For sure.
And I feel like it touched my soul.
100%.
And I didn't grow up in Puerto Rico. I didn't even go to Puerto Rico until I was older. Like 3 years ago, I went to Puerto Rico for the first time. And I remember going into La Placita and I felt like I couldn't breathe, bro. Like I was like, it took my breath away that I have been making a living off of this music for so long. And now I'm witnessing the actual culture for the very first time, and I'm half Puerto Rican. So it was a big deal for me. And you know, what part of Puerto Rico did you grow up in?
I grew up in between Dorado y Condado.
Okay, so right up in the top, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
And what was that experience like?
It was cool. I mean, it was Condado is very touristy, and my pops worked in the hotel business, so I kind of grew up in a very hotel environment, which has been kind of cool because now as I've gotten older, every time I go to Puerto Rico, I expand my knowledge. I go to Rincon, I go to Arecibo, I go to Cabo Rojo, I go to the and I'm able to stay in these different places, and still, it's like it's such a small island, but there's just so much to see, so much to experience that I still have like tons of ground to cover, man. And it's like, honestly, that's really one of the only places I travel. When I travel, I go to Puerto Rico because my best friend lives in Puerto Rico. My grandparents live in Puerto Rico. So I get the family experience, but I also get the vacation experience. I don't know. You can't convince me that there's another place I can go do that. So.
Well, this is the Bestie Brunch podcast, and please tell me about your best friend in Puerto Rico.
My best friend lives in Dorado, Puerto Rico. He lives about a minute from the beach.
Okay.
Like he literally gets off work. Shout out to Andres Toro. He's that his birthday just passed, so happy birthday, bro. But he lives. I timed it because I went on Snapchat and I started filming. It was exactly 60 seconds and my feet touched the sand. And he lives in like the most beautiful sunsets. I mean, it's literally right there. And it's funny because when I go there, I'm like, oh man, I can't believe you live here. Like this is so incredible. And I feel like sometimes when I go to Puerto Rico, everyone else is working. They're living life.
Right.
They're not on vacation. They're not like just like free falling doing whatever every day. So I'm like, oh, let's go. He's like, I can't.
I gotta go to work. Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing here. It's like I'm chilling. You got a bunch of other things going on.
Yeah.
But when I go there, it's like, man, like you go to the beach like once every couple weeks. It's like you live right here. So I think it's an interesting relationship with like appreciating where you live, but also like you got to handle business. You know what I mean?
So what are some of the projects that you worked on to get you to this point? Like you told me that you worked with Kendrick. At what point in your career did you work with Kendrick?
I met Kendrick my third day in LA.
Third day in LA.
Third day in LA.
How'd that happen?
But he wasn't, at the time he was K-Dot.
Yeah.
And he was 17.
Okay.
And nobody knew who he was. I was working for a magazine called Total Access. And with that magazine, they flew me out for this party because I was doing like marketing and graphics and stuff. And I went out and I was like, one weekend there, I was like, all right, I'm moving. And so my first weekend actually there, we got invited to a party at Game's house. Now, at the time, Game was kind of grooming Kendrick and J-Rock and working with TDE pretty close. And that kind of just opened the door. So I was at that party. I didn't know anybody, but I was like, hey, I'm Rambo, and nobody, it's kind of a particular name. People don't really forget that name.
Right.
So, but I met Punch.
Yeah.
And Punch was like kind of like my main communication, and they said they needed like a graphic design, and they needed covers for their artists, and I didn't know their artists. You know what I mean? To me, it was just like at that point, when you first move to a major market, major city, you're just like any opportunity.
And you're fresh from Puerto Rico.
No, this is from Indiana.
Indiana? Okay.
Yeah, this is like out of college, went back, boom, went there, met them. Literally within 48 hours. I didn't even have the day I landed in LA, August 16th, 2006. I landed in LA and my laptop cracked. Landed. So now I'm making beats on like a fourth of my screen. I go there, I meet this guy. I don't know who K-Dot is or J-Rock.
Right.
They're just young kids. They're 17 years old. So he's like, I need graphics. I'm like, I remember I did some Photoshop in like fucking 11th grade or something like that. I'm like, whatever, I'll figure it out. So I went home that night. I'm like, I'm going to download an illegal version of Photoshop. And I did it. I got the cover done within like 2 days. And I did his first mixtape cover. And then
you did K-Dot's first mixtape cover?
It was for training day. And then after that, we did a couple other ones as they started bringing in new artists. I did the C4 cover where he went over Lil Wayne beats and he has like the C and the C4 on his eyes. Yeah. I designed that. And then what I actually did was I did Gangsta and Soul for Schoolboy Q and a couple other ones. But I actually did during that time. I actually did all their MySpace. Y'all hear that? MySpace. But like, remember they had the HTML layouts and they had the banners up top and they had all the. I was designing all that shit. Like, and it was just like for me, I just saw it as like an opportunity to showcase my skill sets. You know what I mean? At the time, I was working with Gorilla Black also.
Yeah.
So I was just like, just anything to just put my foot in the door. You know what I mean? And a lot of those skills, man, just to this day, just have helped me just, at the very least, give me the confidence to say like, no, like I've worked with some of the greatest, like people in the game. Period.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And for me, I never got like greedy with the credit. You know what I mean? To me, it was like I did the work. I work with these people. You know what I mean? And even just Friday, I went to see Kendrick in Chicago. I helped booked Kendrick's first show in Chicago.
Right.
In like 2011. That was at the Shrine.
Yeah.
Which is a small little venue.
Yeah, I've heard of the Shrine.
And so to see him sell out Soldier Field, 96,000 people?
96,000 people. Congratulations.
That's insane.
Damn.
So, just to see that. And then I did a couple tour days with SZA when she was on tour with Janae. So, like, I know these people, fairly well. I've worked with them and just seeing them grow up and become, like immense stars in the world. Not just like locally, not in Indy, not in LA. Like,
right.
So to have those experience, man, it just kind of really it just really keeps your tank full.
What kind of projects do you look forward to right now with Pegao?
With Pegao right now, we're doing, we do like, I want to say it's Indianapolis's biggest party, but it's actually our biggest Latin party, but it is actually Indy's biggest party, period. It's which is crazy because, especially Latin parties, we don't, like, the Latin community doesn't always get like the premier nightclub of a city. We don't get like the biggest nightclub of a city. We get like just some nightclub and some venue. But this is like the premier nightclub in Indianapolis, Envy Nightclub. It's right on Meridian, right on a block over from where the Pacers play. Shout out to the Pacers game day.
Oh my God.
Oh. Oh yeah, I'm in New York.
You need to relax. You need to relax.
Well, I'm not a Pacers fan.
Okay.
Right? I'm a supporter of my environment. You know what I'm saying? I've actually always been, because you grew up in Puerto Rico, I don't have a team.
Right,
I've always been a player fan, so I'm like a huge AI fan.
Got it.
I'm a MJ fan forever. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's GOAT talk.
Yeah.
So, for me, like, it's, with Pegao is to merge. We've been doing the promotion and marketing for Ritmo Indie for about 3-4 years now. We've built it up to be a huge success. We're selling out pretty much almost every month. We sell out the party, and it's an amazing crowd. It's an amazing like environment where it's like 85% reggaeton, like just, and everything else is just break records for bachata, a little bit of salsa, some pepas type of vibe, you know what I mean? And now I'm kind of in the point where I'm actually doing a lot of the booking, bringing in DJs, which is partly why I'm in New York also, and just really trying to expand the attention that Indianapolis is getting, because there is tons of talent there and tons of potential to grow. It's just such a low media, like I call it off market.
I see why you would say that.
You know what I mean?
Destinations. People don't say I'm going to Indianapolis to go hang out.
Yeah.
So I get it. It's they call it like a secondary or tertiary market or whatever you want to call it.
I just say off market because I've lived in LA. I've been to New York quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of things like as far as traveling to where I recognize that there's some markets that determine the market, like New York and LA, and that actually, like, I feel like New York and LA, specifically Miami, you guys put content, you put art into the world, and the world goes, okay, this is great. But some of those off market cities are like consumers.
Got it.
They're more like reaching out. They're like, what's happening in New York? What's happening in LA? What's happening in all these places? And then they go, oh, okay, I want to be a part of that. And then they become supporters of that. But like for us, like I booked G-Eazy and in the like 8 years ago or something, like he was just starting, but he was charging like $5,000 a booking, and like we were doing a college party that was like free cover with ID, so we had to pay him like $3,000 because he was already in town. So it's just a weird market, especially for artists. We get a lot of big tours skip in general,
right?
And we just don't have that. So with Pegao, I'm not indie focused with that. I really want to build the idea that we can promote DJs and parties all over the world. So,
what was that turning point for you? That that corner where you hit some success? It's like there's always that like one day, that one party, that one event. What was it?
With Pegao or with Ritmo?
No, I'm sorry, with the event that you're doing, the
With Ritmo,
with Ritmo, yeah.
I think honestly, I would love to say that there was like a moment, but like, you know, I don't think we've hit that moment. I still think we're building that brand, and I'm still figuring out what it is. Like Pegao, what's funny is like this is the only hat that I have for Pegao. This is it. And the thing is, even now in Indy, like I'll walk around and people go, "Oh, you're Pegao," but I'm like, "Oh, some things take on a life of their own, and those things to me, I find myself to be like a talent guy. I can look at a group of models, a group of rappers, a group of artists, a group of singers, and tell you who the best in that group is.
Gotcha.
Not the best today, potentially the best. And I do feel like where I'm at with Pegao is like I know what it could be, but I don't know what it is.
Got it.
So I'm really just like this logo and the brand and the concept it has a life of its own that I'm not aware of yet.
Well, I wish you all of the success. I know how hard you work.
I do.
And I'm proud of you, man.
Touche.
I'm really proud of you.
Touche.
So keep it pimping. Keep going.
No more pimping.
Keep going and keep working hard because you know what it takes for success.
For sure.
Especially in the secondary market.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely.
And we're excited for our last 24 hours in New York.
Let's see what it brings. It's Anthony Vera here, Fushimi Times Square, the Bestie Brunch podcast. I'm with Rambo Hustle. Pegao. Remember the name. Pegao.
Pegao.